This is Love Notes, daily devotions from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. Grace and peace to you. As we continue today in John Chrysostom's reflections on the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, called the Love Chapter, we come to the part where Paul, in that letter, says, "For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part, but when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end." Now, what does all that gobbledygook mean? Well, Chrysostom explains it this way. He says, "Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. Now, I only know things partially." Now, God knows everything already, but for me, I only know things partially. What is the then? Then is the consummation of the kingdom, when love finally reigns all in all, when God's future is complete and it's been revealed completely to all people. We have to remember that for Hebrew and early Christian thinking, they didn't think of time as a cycle of seasons that kept repeating itself over and over again. No, it was more linear in nature, in that from the human side of things, it had a beginning and it had an end. And at that end, God will rule all in all, and that means love will rule all in all. So now I only know in part what love is all about, but then I will know everything fully. Do you see how Paul, Chrysostom says, pulls down our pride in two ways by saying this? First, our knowledge is only partial, so don't get too caught on yourself. Don't get too wrapped up in your own press, because you only know partly what God is up to today. Be clear about that. And then secondly, even what you know, you didn't get it on your own. It came as a gift, a revelation of God. We don't know God because we studied the book hard. We know God because God, in grace, reveals God's own self to us. In the person of Jesus Christ, in the oracles of Scriptures, in our daily devotions, in our hearts, in our struggles, in our rejoicing, in our sorrows. Paul, Chrysostom says, didn't have knowledge of God, but God made himself known to Paul. Paul didn't start out by being smarter than everybody else. God showed Paul what Paul needed to know. Paul is saying, just as God first knew me and came to find me, so I will hurry toward God much more than now. In other words, I didn't know God at all, and so I didn't rush toward God. But then once the revelation began to come, I wanted it more and more. Chrysostom explains, so if someone sits in darkness, he doesn't hurry to meet the beauty of the sun's light when he doesn't see it. In other words, in the dark room, in the hours before dawn, you don't rush to the window to look at the sunrise. But when the beauty shows itself, when it starts to peek through the shutters, when it comes up over the horizon and you begin to get a sense that light is on its way, then you get up off the floor, you go and you fling the window open so that you can see it more fully. That's what this relationship with God is about. At first, we don't rush toward God because we don't even have anything to rush toward. But then, as the revelation comes to us more and more, we run ever faster to see what God has in store for us. Chrysostom says, are we ignorant of God then, that we don't know anything? No, far from it. We know that God is, and we know what God is. Creator, master of the universe. But regarding God's essence, we don't yet know. God's essence, God's love in its fullness. Now I know only in part, Paul says. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. His wasn't a knowledge of accelerating degrees. In other words, he didn't get better at knowing God. It was instead of being known by God. Opening himself up so that God could know Paul more and more deeply led to the revelations which deepened his relationship with God. Open your eyes, your hearts, your ears, and God will come to you. And you will know, but only what God allows you to know at this time. You will know in part, but then, when all things are complete, you will know everything you need to know. Amen.